Well, first, I'm so thrilled to be here today and to be part of this project. And what a brilliant program Linda and AJ have put together. And we've got the food, we've got the psychology, we've got the environment being addressed, we've got more food. And it's my privilege to be here with you to get you fired up about the food and the fitness connections. Does that sound good? Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what, when most of us think about fitness and exercise, we think of it in terms of how it's going to help and benefit our physical health. Like maybe it'll give us a stronger heart, or give us, help us burn some calories and help us manage our weight, or maybe build a little muscle, or build a better figure. And exercise does all of these things. But this buries the lead about the bigger benefit that physical activity delivers to you, and that is what it will do for your brain. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go so far as to say that physical activity walks away with the award in the role of Best Supporting Player for transition to a healthy lifestyle. I see lots of head nods. I can see I'm speaking to the right group here. But it's true, and that's what we're going to look at today. And think about it. We all want the benefits of being more fit, don't we? And I can guarantee there's not a single person in here that wouldn't agree with me that when you move your body, when you do either a short walk or a big workout, when you're done, you just feel better, don't you? You feel more vitality, you have more physical confidence, you feel more resilient. And that resiliency that you are experiencing in your body is reflecting what's going on in your brain on an even bigger level. And that's what we're going to look at today. When people come to me, I specialize in helping people who struggle with their weight and energy levels transition to a healthy lifestyle with a plant-based diet and simple activity. But when they come to me and want coaching or help, I'll go, yes, I'll help you, but you need to understand, yes, it's about the food, but it also needs to incorporate the other two pillars. One of those being frame of mind, and the other the fitness. Because the frame of mind and the fitness are what leverage your success. That's what we're going to look at today. Not how food makes you more fit, but how fitness helps you make better choices with food. You with me? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Let's make sure that our there we are. Okay. So this is our theme. Exercise inspires healthy lifestyle change because of the way that it affects our brains. Now here's the plan. I know it looks ambitious. It's going to be an overview, but I want you to get as excited as possible about getting more movement and sitting less. First, we're going to look at movement as a mood enhancer. Now, we all understand that. It makes you feel better. But I want to go through 10 ways why that is, because that provides information about how it also is an agent for change. We're talking about it being a precursor and a help to a healthy lifestyle change. And exercise actually provides miracle growth for the brain. Have you heard about this? You heard about today. Exercise also exerts a positive influence on your food choices. It's a willpower booster. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And we also need to look at the negative effects of sitting too much. Have you heard about sedentarism? Oh, good, lots of head nods. And I want to give you a tool to use to help you maybe analyze what your day looks like in terms of activity or lack of same. We'll talk about some obstacles to exercise. If it's so good for us, how come it can be so hard to get started? Maybe you've had that challenge. And then which exercise, how much, which are best for your brain activity, and some resources. We're going to sneak in some fit quickies through the day today. We'll do at least one during our opening session time together so that you can see and experience yourself just the power of moving for just a couple of minutes. And in the Fit Quickies book, I have 14 of these exercises. The good news is, you don't have to do your resistance training all at once. You can pepper it throughout the day, and I have all that research in the book. So, and then if we have any time for Q&A, which I kind of doubt, but guess what? I'll be here all day, and you can approach me about any question you have. I keep wanting to point this at the screen. All right, so let's look at the 10 ways that exercise affects your mood and your health. First, it inspires a pleasure cycle. And how does it boost your mood? Don't worry, your vision has not gone awry here. All right, I blurred that because I wanted to make a point with this. This is all the results from one study of hundreds about the benefits of physical activity to your brain. And I debated how much should I put up on this slide, because I didn't want you to feel compelled to read every bullet point, but I left it all there in a blur to make the point. All of this result from one study. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this study, and it's actually highlighted in 3 main readings of the effect of exercise. First, its effect on oxygenization of the prefrontal cortex of your brain, for the effect of exercise on brainwave activity, and also its effect on something called 5-HT, which is something that when there's higher levels of it in your bloodstream, it's an indication of higher levels of melatonin and serotonin, and those are your happy hormones. Have you heard of it? 5-HTP? It's like a food supplement you can buy. It's trying to duplicate the same process, but we can get it directly through exercise. So this particular study, don't worry, I'm not going to hook up anybody today. You're all safe. There were, all right, these subjects of this particular research project performed pedaling exercise. That's like on a stationary bike for just 15 minutes. Here are the results. This pedaling exercise for 15 minutes evoked oxygenation of the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Now let me tell you about your prefrontal cortex. That is your command center. That is the part of you that makes the better choice. That's your social filter that gets you making more appropriate social choices. That's the part of your brain that has you opt for maybe the apple instead of the cookie. You want that puppy oxygenated and filled with blood. This happens quite quickly with exercise. Also, the subject experienced reduced negative emotions as put together by, they took a self-reflective mood survey. So they reported that. And also they experienced significant increase in alpha bands. We know what alpha brainwaves are, right? Those are associated with better well-being, relaxation. These were all tested in the lab. That was with the EEG. And significant increase in that 5-HT, indicating the happy hormones are circulating. Now this can happen in shorter than 15 minutes of exercise. I want you to know that. But isn't that great to know that you can get all this done, and you don't have to go out for a 45-minute run to get some of this accomplished. Number 2, sweat more, stress less. Exercise increases not only the serotonin and melatonin, but you have dopamine levels increased, and you also have the norepinephrine increased. These are all enhancing your well-being, relieving tension, and increasing motivation and focus. And I had to put this up. Serotonin and dopamine, technically the only 2 things you really enjoy, and you can access them through exercise. More on sweat more, stress less. Have you heard about heart rate variability? Do you know what that is? Heart rate variability is something we all have under normal conditions. And it's just what it sounds like. Your heart rate varies. If you're under stress, what happens? Yeah, your heart rate elevates, whether it's physical or emotional stress. And when you relax, your heart rate then should settle down to a normal rate. Where have you ever felt that you're just keyed up for hours, days at a time? What you're experiencing there is a reduction in heart rate variability. Your heart rate is now stuck at a higher level. You're not able to relax. This is very challenging for you physiologically, and it impairs cognitive function. You can't think straight when you're all stressed out, right? This is another important benefit of exercise. Exercise restores heart rate variability, and it can do that in 2 to 3 minutes. We're not even talking 15 now, my friends. So I have this up here because I want to make the point here. It's not our fault. We're seeking this pleasure cascade, right? And one way to get it is a quick fix through highly pleasurable food and high fat, high salt, high sugar foods. The pleasure cascade that we're seeking with a quick fix with junk foods, that whole cascade of serotonin, melatonin, dopamine that I mentioned happens through exercise, you can access directly without the downside that comes with this pile of stuff you see in front of you. Exercise enhances physiological health. Now we know that, but what's the brain connection? Cardiovascular disease, inflammation, diabetes, all of these things impair brain function. And by affecting your physiological health with exercise, you are decreasing this problem that impacts your cognitive function, which all impact your ability to make change. Do you see the connection? All of these things that affect your brain affect your ability to make healthy lifestyle change. Exercise also raises your tolerance for other forms of stress. You know that, don't you? When you are fit or more in shape, you feel like you're able to take on the world. There's physiological response for that. It increases your resiliency. By becoming more physically resilient, you become more mentally resilient. And exercise boosts self-efficacy. Have you heard about this? This is a big deal in research. Self-efficacy is that I can do it. I have the confidence that I can actually accomplish this thing in front of me. Well, how important is that for having lifestyle change? If you want to change your diet and you go in with doubts, you're kind of dead in the water before you get started. Exercise will help boost that self-efficacy quotient for you. Exercise fosters social contact. It doesn't mean that all exercise needs to be done in community, but if you go out on a walk with a friend, or you're in an exercise class, or even if you're connected with a group online, we know the research tells us that social connection fosters cognitive ability and keeps your brain functioning better, and it stimulates you better to make positive lifestyle change. Exercise increases outdoor exposure, usually. Some people do all their workouts inside, but not necessarily. And there's something called the benefit of green exercise. Have you heard about this? It's something in their literature. Here's a specific resource that I've quoted here. Green exercise is exercise done out of doors, and it's been found that when you do exercise in an outdoor setting, you increase the neurotransmitter levels, elevating mood and self-esteem. And when you're talking about lifestyle change, do you think a better mood would be better than not a good mood? And by the way, this is true whether you're outdoors, or they also tested subjects exercising indoors, and they ran outdoor movies and pictures, and it had the same beneficial effect. Exercise also diverts negative thinking. Have you ever gotten caught in one of those brain loops you just can't stop cogitating and agitating about something that's bothering you? Have you ever found that a walk makes you feel better? I'm going to go out and clear my head. So if you're one of those people preoccupied with the end of the world, take a quick walk. Exercise also encourages engagement versus avoidance. If you take on the challenge of physical exercise and are successful, you're more likely to take on other challenges, such as improving your health and changing your diet. Now, let's talk about, there we go, miracle bro for the brain. This is actually a phenomenon connected with a protein that circulates in your system called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's called BDNF. And when this cascade of hormones that we talked about with exercise occurs, that mixes with BDNF in your brain and helps stimulate neurotrophic activity. Neurotrophic means growing nerves and growing synapses. You need this to make any kind of change. As a matter of fact, the next level of this is, I'm pointing at the wrong thing here, creating new synapses. This, it's kind of like sprinkling fertilizer on a flower garden. So this happens within just minutes of when you start moving. You have that cascade of hormones, the BDNF gets activated, and you start to be able to build more neurons. Very important for lifestyle change, and increases neuroplasticity. Plasticity means ability to change, right? Well, if you don't have neuroplasticity, meaning the ability of your neurons to change, to adapt to a new lifestyle, then you're going to be cemented in old habits, old perspectives of thinking, and old behaviors. So you see why I'm such a champion and advocate for getting your body moving if you want to make healthy lifestyle change. Exercise has been proven to make low-calorie foods more appealing. This is in the research. It's not just because people exercised and were asked, did you like the healthier food better, and they felt like they should say yes. These 15 volunteers were asked to exercise on a treadmill for an hour in this particular study. Then they were shown pictures of fast food and healthy snacks. The reward centers of their brain responded more to the healthy foods, and this was according to MRI, measuring the brain. It wasn't like, oh gosh, I probably should answer and say, you know, I like the healthy food better. And this was in contrast to the subject who did not have the activity, who preferred, their brains responded to the junk food rather than the healthier snacks. Isn't that fascinating? That is big news. Exercise is also a willpower workout, and this is, I have a whole chapter in the Fit Quickies book on the willpower workout, and I want to explain this to you because it is another big deal, and it's another way you can impact your lifestyle change so easily by doing a couple simple things through the day. Here's the thing about willpower. Do you remember when I talked about the oxygen in the prefrontal cortex of the brain earlier on, and then I said that's your command center? Well, that's where your willpower hangs out too. And every morning after you've had a good night's sleep, if indeed you have had a good night's sleep, your prefrontal cortex of your brain has been restored, and it's full of all kinds of oxygen and restoration from the stresses of the day before, giving you a full reserve of willpower. So is it any wonder that first thing in the morning is when we go, I'm going to eat right today, I'm going to get my exercise in today, I'm going to be sure to walk the dog today, I'll finish that project at work today. We all know that feeling. We have all these ambitions first thing in the morning, right? Every single stress that you encounter through the course of the day starts to hammer away at that prefrontal cortex willpower reserve. It doesn't have to be a big, huge stress. You drop your favorite coffee cup. There's traffic on the way to the work. You have a disagreement with a coworker. You can't get the dog in the door before you have to leave on time. All of these things start to hammer away at that stress. Is it any wonder that at the end of the day, our greatest ambitions to go out and exercise give way to just lay on the couch and eat a big bowl of ice cream? So we get that pleasure cycle. We don't have to, exert. But here's the good news, my friends. Even though that willpower comes in limited supply, and when it's gone, you can restore it through the course of the day. What are the most effective ways? And the most immediate way to do that is 2 to 3 minutes of physical activity. This is why, again, the concept of the Fit Quickies is to pepper in short bouts of activity throughout the day, not just because you'll be able to sneak in your muscle training workout, which you will, it all adds up over the end of the day, but because you're going to restore your mental well-being and your ability to stand up to the stresses of life and make that healthy diet choice that you want so bad, right? It's restorative too and builds neuron density in your command center of your brain, and it also helps restore heart rate variability that we talked about earlier. There's a connection with willpower there. When you are not moving your body, you have a physical inertia, correct? This translates directly, the research shows, to inertia for change. If you don't want to move your body, you also just don't want to make that healthy lifestyle change that you need to. And now we're getting a better idea of why that is, because of all this cascade of events you can make happen so quickly with exercise. So first, before we go into the mental problems with, the cognitive ability problems with sedentarism, let's take a quick review of the physical problems or the disease biomarkers that show up quite quickly when you become an inactive person. Triglycerides are elevated. There's all kinds of connections with lipid profile problems. HDL, which is that healthy, the healthier cholesterol, is decreased. You lose your sensitivity to insulin, which can be a precursor to diabetes. You elevate your whole risk for metabolic syndrome, and this is the big one, you suppress LPL. I've got to explain this one. This is one of my favorite things to just do a short little lesson about. LPL is lipoprotein lipase. Let me introduce you to LPL. We've all got it. It is an enzyme circulating in your bloodstream, and its task is to take fat circulating in your bloodstream and to put it and store it into one of two places. Into your muscle cells to be used for energy, or into your fat cells to be stored for use later. Now, where do you want yours to go? So you say, okay, it seems to be a universal response. Inactivity fosters the enzyme activity within your fat cells. Physical activity increases its activity in your muscle cells. So you have a huge impact on LPL's work in your body by how you move or don't move your body. If that just, people are starting to squirm in their seats. That means we want to get moving, right? I'll get you there in a minute. Also, decreased glucose tolerance is a problem with sedentarism. But here's the thing on the brain function. Now that we know that there are brain changes that are essential to your mental health through activity, you understand the problems of the absence of activity on brain function and lifestyle change. Now look at this. Sedentarism negates the beneficial effects of exercise and paves the way to pathological derangement. Have you ever heard that term before? My God, that's what the research said. It said pathological derangement. And yeah, kind of scary. That's why I had to highlight it for you. And I want to explain where it says it negates the beneficial effects of exercise. I bet you there's more than one person here thinking, so what if I sit at computer, 4 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon? I do my hour-and-a-half workout every night. I go on a walk. Well, guess what? If you are doing that, having big chunks of sitting time during the day, that means 2, 3, 4 hours when you're not breaking it up with activity. Even if you are doing your workouts, you are subject to the same disease biomarker, downfall and fallout, as someone who doesn't exercise. I know it's not fair. You're probably a little bit healthier, but this has been shown in research, the same disease biomarker flags go up, even if you're an exerciser and you have big chunks of sitting time. And I want you to know about that. Neuroprotective. Now here's the solutions. One of them is to not sit so much. Does anyone here have a standing workstation? Okay, there's some awareness here. And this is showing up more and more in the workplace. You can actually set it up so that you're not wedded to a seated situation for hours during the day at work or at home. Sometimes you can have a boss or a business that is compatible with helping you foster that in your workplace. But this is my writing station at home. And I didn't go to any great expense. I went out to that furniture graveyard we all have in the garage. And I pulled a few things together, made sure it was designed ergonomically correctly. In other words, my elbows were at the right bend and my gaze was at the right level for my eyes. And this is how I spend my time. So I'm actually stuck more standing than sitting, but it works out quite well. I have a place to put my foot up so I can take that pressure off my back. But this is one of the most immediate ways you can reverse this problem, is just not by sitting so much. And if you can't get a standing workstation, just break up your hour. Every 30 to 45 minutes, you set a timer, get up and move, do a fit quickie, then you get your muscle workout in by the end of the day. And also with fitness break, you ready to move a little bit? I know you got to do something. This is Juliana Hever. If you don't know her, she is a plant-based dietitian. She wrote The Complete Idiot's Guide to Plant-Based Nutrition, and she's a big Fit Quickies fan, so I thought, what a way to get us inspired. So all I'm going to ask you to do right now, I'm going to teach you Fit Quickie number 10, which is legs into play. And it's named so because it brings all the muscles of the legs into play quite quickly. So if you would please stand, and if you can't stand, you can still do this seated. Place your heels of your feet together. Should I get up on the stage? Can you see me? Okay. Okay, place your heels together, toes turned out, and you want to have a 90-degree angle at your heels. First, we got to get your body lined up for excellent anatomical alignment always before you move. That means I want you to pull your abdominal wall in just a little bit. Later on, I'll teach you 7 seconds to a flat belly. How's that sound? Only 7 seconds. Now, grip your backyard. That means, you know, back there, give it a squeeze. Elevate your rib cage straight up from your hips. Pull the shoulders back and grip the shoulder blades over your rib cage and extend the top of your head to this. Beautiful. Did you guys get together and practice this? Then from here, I want you to straighten your legs all the way. Now what happened to the backyard? Get it back. Give it a grip. Now with your legs straight, that has a purpose. You're going to be stabilizing that muscle that goes right through the center of your knee. Just start to tap your heels. Only come an inch or so off the floor. Tiny little tap. Now here's what's happening here. Your calf muscles are known as your peripheral pump. They are what move the blood and the lymph out of the lower extremities up to the rest of your body so that you detox and so that you oxygenate the brain. Feeling better? Okay, pause right there. Do you feel a little burn in the calves? All right, good. Let's do this. Get your position back. Belly in, grip the back side, shoulders back, top of head to ceiling, legs straight, and come up to the toes and down to the heels. Up to the toes and down to the heels. Now this, we will do a couple variations of this today because I want you to walk. If you walk away with one thing today, it's this move. You can get up from your computer, your seated position, your TV, whatever it is, every 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and do a few of these and have a huge impact on your circulation and your brain function. 2 more, and 1, keep your beautiful posture and float back down to a seated position. You know, is it any wonder when we have been seated for a while working or engaged somehow that we start getting brain fog? Have you ever experienced that? Well, now you have cleared your mind. You have sprinkled a little BDNF on your, you know, on those hormones circulating in your system. So good start. I promise to show you a way to take a look at your schedule and see if you are, how much seated time you actually have. This is a sample from my upcoming book, The Plant-Based Journey, and it's something called a metabolic profile, something that you can do easily at home. All you have to do is for 2 or 3 days, instead of keeping a food journal, you keep an activity journal. Here's a quick run through. This person was up at 7 a.m., exercised for 30 minutes, good. 45 minutes sitting for breakfast, then drove to work another 45 minutes, then 4 hours sitting at the computer, goes on and on. By the end of the day, look at their waking time. They had 87% of their waking time was in a seated position. This gives this person valuable information about where to start, about how to become less inactive. This person, I recommended that they start building in those every 30 to 45 minutes. Stop sitting, get up and do something. You can either do an exercise like we just did or build an errand. You know, go to the opposite side of the building to get your glass of water, run up to the mailbox, go empty the laundry, you know, anything like that to get yourself off your seat and on your feet. Now let's talk about obstacles to exercise. If it's so beneficial, why aren't more of us doing it? Besides the fact that I think we're just naturally inclined to lazy, because, you know, I think it's because of our heritage. You know, we needed to save our energy for the real emergency that somehow this day never, you know, really comes. We don't have to use that physical activity. But other than that, these are what the research shows. Self-perception is a big obstacle. If you have not had success previously with going through with an exercise program, then that's going to take on a life of its own and become an obstacle to you. If you don't believe that exercise will improve your well-being, which of course no one believes that anymore, right? Because you just got a full arsenal of why you should move. If you're not really convinced of the why, you're not going to stick through with all of these tips to keep yourself sitting less and moving more, no matter what the benefits are. And absence of a specific plan to exercise. It's not enough to just say, well, I'm going to become a more active person. What does that mean? What does that look like in your life? So, and then there's the question of which exercise and how much. Has anyone ever just thrown up their hands with that one? Yeah, it's like, okay, well, one of my goals with writing the Fit Quickies book was to cut through all the clutter of information out there about what comprises a healthy fitness program. And I went to the American College of Sports Medicine, and they reviewed 400 research papers, and from that extrapolated the evidence of what makes a healthy adult. And I simplified it really clearly in the book, and the book's out on the back table, so you can take a look through that chapter and let me know if you have any questions. But basically it comes down to this. We know that we need resistance training 3 times a week. What does that mean? That means you need to have all your muscles challenged at least 3 times a week. But guess what? It doesn't have to happen all at once. You can do, that's the Fit Quickie concept. I can do one exercise at 8 o'clock in the morning, take 3 to 5 minutes. I can do another one at 11, take 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe do 2 of them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I have 14 exercises in there. By the time you get to the end of a week, if you have done each of those exercises 3 times, whether all together or broken up into pieces, you have done a complete resistance training program for your body. So this is liberating information. You don't have to set aside an hour for the gym 3 times a week. You can sneak in fitness and get those brain benefits. This is all going to help you make better lifestyle change. We need flexibility 3 times a week, get those muscles stretched. And then, of course, neuromotor. This is the new kid on the block. This is mind-body exercise like Tai Chi. I think all exercise is mind-body though, so obviously from what I've said. But the big winner, aside from not sitting so much, is cardiovascular exercise. And the reason for this really is because of the limitations of the research. Long ago, or not too long ago, I guess, when they started to do the research on this and animal testing was done using rats, you know, they knew how to get rats to run on a treadmill, but they never figured out how to get them to pump iron. So it's kind of challenging and now more and more of these tests are being run on human beings. But really, it's just the limitations of the study. So this cardio is actually, repeated rhythmic motions of the large muscle groups of the body, and lots of things qualify. So what's the exercise prescription for that in terms of brain health? 150 minutes a week. Okay, how do you break that down? Does that mean, 3 times 50 minutes or what? Basically, it's 30 to 60 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week. And that sounds quite vast, but it depends on intensity. But basically, if you're just getting out 20 to 30 minutes several times a week, you're good. I'm going to suggest some cardiovascular activity daily. Here's why. How often do you need your brain? Do you need this every day? Yeah. And keep in mind, if you are currently a very sedentary person with not much physical activity going on, then you start with 5 minutes several times a week, and you build up from there. You just learned that just a few minutes makes a big difference when we're talking about lifestyle change, which is what we want. So you can do structured activity, you can do, dancing, fun stuff, you can do running. That's me running on the beach in Mexico. It's a very portable activity. I kind of like to take that everywhere. So let's look at 5 steps to helping you become a more active person. If we talked about the challenges to becoming more active, let me give you some specific tools to walk away with. These are direct from my coaching practice. First, become aware. That means become aware of your activity or lack of it. I gave you the metabolic profile idea. That's a way to find out, where am I right now that in my activity? How much inactivity am I really having in my life? From there, set your intentions. Your intentions, I like that better than goals, because intentions to me sounds proactive, sounds moving forward. And let's say that your end result, you want to become a more active person. Well, that means you have to specify those intentions. Does that mean you're going to walk 20 minutes a day, 6 days this week? Make that a very clear intention. If you haven't been exercising at all, are you going to walk 10 minutes a day, 3 days this week to get you started? That's what you do, and make it very specific. And this is a huge one. This is a big underline highlight circle. Identify the micro changes that need to be made for you to make these intentions come true. Here's an example. Your intention is to walk every day when you get home from work. Well, if you walk in the door and where are my walking shoes again? And you have to rummage around in the back of the closet, and you know the couches are very inviting. The remote control is just calling your name, as is the cookies in the cookie jar. This is a place for micro change that can make a big difference. This means you have your shoes right there when you need them. So when you walk in the door, and guess what? For some people, the micro change is simply have your shoes there inside the door. You don't even have to put them on or work out. Do that every day for a week so that you've started to make a micro change. Okay, now that's not so hard. Then the next week, we'll all put those shoes on. You still don't have to exercise. Just a micro change. So for a week, you've got your shoes out, then you put them on, you're sitting on the couch. Okay, well maybe the next week, let's talk about moving in those shoes a little bit. Nicole's situation was she wanted to become more active because she always felt more energetic when she exercised, and she was tired a lot of the time. Well, Nicole has 3 children. No wonder she's tired a lot of the time. You know what the micro change was that we made? That made it work for her? Nah, you win the new car, lady. Pick up your keys afterwards. No, here's what she did. She discovered, I said, well, what is it you like to wear? What makes you feel more energetic and active? And she said, my yoga pants. And I said, well, how about let's put the yoga pants on before you walk the kids to school. That was the micro change that was needed. So right away, she'd drop off the kids and she just felt, you know how that is when you got those pair of pants that make you kind of slim and everything's snug in place? She started walking 10 more minutes every day. And it turned into 20 minutes, and then she added on 2 Fit Quickies every day after she got home. She had a new habit. And all she did was make the micro change first of putting on her yoga pants to walk the kids to school. The next is to set benchmark dates. In other words, I want to be a more active person, okay, there's your overall end result. I'm going to walk 20 minutes a day. Okay, when? Write it down. By the end of this week, I will have walked 20 minutes a day for 5 days. That's something you can check. Don't you love checking off checklists? I do that. Sometimes I have things that I've just done and I write them down so I can check them off because it just makes you feel so accomplished. And then the next thing is practice. Everything that we've got, what we're getting right now is because we've been practicing what we're doing. And the way to develop new lifestyle is to keep practicing the new things that we're looking to achieve. So a little bit more on the exercise brain connection. I'm looking at 10 o'clock, aren't we not here? Have you been holding up signs for me? Or didn't it? Oh, okay. Well, I will just, I think to keep us on schedule here, I want to give you a couple more resources. One of these is Dr. Neil Barnard's book, Power Foods for the Brain. Who's read this book? Good. Yeah, I am very honored and privileged to work with the PCRM and Dr. Barnard on a regular basis. And I'm one of the coaches for the 21-day vegan kickstart program. So you'll see me online if we throw that every month if you want to come in. But he has a section in there on exercise. So I also call this book Power Moves for the Brain because he talks about how important physical activity is for retaining cognitive function. And another book is Spark. Has anyone read Spark? Oh my gosh, what a motivational read. John Rady put this together because he's a champion for this exercise and cognitive ability and making lifestyle change. And he found out about a school in Naperville, Illinois. This was a high school. And the high school had put together a program to coordinate physical fitness with seeing how it worked with cognitive ability and literacy growth for the students. So they created a 0 period for that segment of the population in the study. And the students, the high school students in 0 period would go for fitness activities. It wasn't sports related, it was all fitness. You know, they had heart rate monitors and treadmills and tracks they were running on. And the other half, the students not involved, they just got in for that period of time. Well, after 1 semester, the results, the students involved in 0 period activity had a 17% growth in literacy. The sleep-in crowd, 10%. That's quite a difference. And in this book, you can read all about this study, and it's grown now. This is a program that has gone national, and these students at this high school in Illinois have gone up against students in Singapore in test results coming out ahead. So there's a direct correlation that's shown in the literature for activity and helping students with learning. And then, of course, there's a Fit Quickies book, and like I told you, I'm here as a resource for you today. You know what? I just want people eating more plants and moving their bodies more. And if this morning's opening session has inspired you to do more of either of those, then you've made my day. Thank you so much.